Now to the battle over the so-called Epstein files.
So I looked this morning and I first started demanding that Donald Trump release the Epstein files on January 23rd.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
That is when he issued an executive order to release the JFK, RFK, and MLK files.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades. And everything will be revealed.
He didn't include Epstein in there.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Now, it is true that he sort of left the impression that they would release the Epstein files. Kash Patel promised he'd release the Epstein files.
Will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America.
Pam Bondi, early on in her tenure, without consulting with the White House.
One of the things a lot of people are wondering, because you said last week that you have the Epstein files on your desk, is when can we see them and what's taking so long to release them?
Jesse, breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being released by my office.
Released an already released version of the Epstein files to a select group of right-wing propagandists.
What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information, but it's pretty sick what that man did.
Everyone has this expectation, everyone, meaning like the QAnoners, the people who have invested conspiracy theories about, say, Bill Clinton for decades about Epstein.
Donald Trump defended his decision to boost a conspiracy theory tying former U.S. President Bill Clinton to convicted sex offender and now deceased financier Jeffrey Epstein. On Friday, New York City's medical examiner confirmed that Epstein did hang himself in prison. But the post, which Trump retweeted, suggested Bill and Hillary Clinton were responsible for his death. We have to say there is no evidence they were involved in any way.
They all have a real expectation that they would get Epstein files.
Attorney General Bondi says this is just phase one. She's promising to open the government files on Jeffrey Epstein, but despite the hype, most of what she released so far had been made public years ago.
They keep digging deeper, right? Pam Bondi comes in, she orchestrates this right-wing propagandist thing. From that point forward, she's committed to giving these propagandists something. Then in May, James Comer says,
I hope James has the Epstein files, because I don't think the Department of Justice has them, or at least the Attorney General does not have them, or she would have turned them over. The president ordered them released. The Attorney General ordered them released. We all know they have not been released. And one of my biggest fears that I had, and I expressed this with Kash Patel and a lot of people, Stephen Miller, and a lot of people going into the new administration. I'm like, I hope they're not shredding documents right now. This was a few weeks before the transition.
It's the same conspiracy theory he's been running against Joe Biden all along, thinking that actually it's going to help him. Pam Bondi is asked about it the next day, and she says, no, they're all on my desk. There's thousands of hours of video. So again, she resets the expectation that they're going to be there.
It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now.
Yesterday, the FBI released via Alex Eisenstadt at Politico this memo, this 2-page unsigned memo saying, nope, you're not going to get anything.
Kash and Bongino ignited a firestorm. Why would they come out with this at 8:30 on a Sunday night? Additionally, the memo suggests no further records will be released. Case closed.
It's sort of a dodge to begin with, right? They released this letter and they released the video of the security camera from outside Epstein's cell to show that no one entered his cell in New York when he was in pretrial detention. So no one could have killed him. So they released video to support the claim that Epstein committed suicide. But along with that, they say there's no evidence of blackmail. And they provide no evidence of that, first of all, because it's I mean, they say there's no Epstein client list.
I never really believed there was a list. Not at all. And if there was, it was destroyed under Obama. It was destroyed under Clinton. It was destroyed under Biden.
And of course, there's a client list. We already know it. It's not very interesting, but we do know it. And we know that, for example, Prince Philip, or it's one of the princes is on there. Donald Trump was clearly close to Epstein for a period of his life. By the way, so is Elon Musk, right? Bill Clinton was the most distanced of the three of them from Jeffrey Epstein, but you're not going to tell that to frothy right-wingers.
Clinton was on the list as a frequent flyer. He made so much money for Epstein, he got his own portrait in the foyer. I've seen that.
But they also say, no evidence of blackmail, and that's probably not true, because the reason Epstein was protected the first time around is because he had some ties, maybe they're CIA, maybe they're Israeli intelligence, maybe Russian intelligence. But the whole point was blackmail.
New details have emerged that reveal complex interactions between the infamous financier Jeffrey Epstein and billionaire Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates. The convicted sex offender Epstein appears to have threatened Bill Gates and tried to blackmail him over his extramarital affair with a Russian bridge player.
This was not just a project of his to destroy these women's lives. This was about him getting powerful people in his space doing illegal and horrible things. So here we are, right? Like Elon Musk runs out the door in a tantrum and says Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. He deletes that. But after this report came out overnight, he put up a meme saying, you promised there would be files and now you say there are no files. You are clowns. He's absolutely right that all of them, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, they promised both before and after coming into office that we would get something that confirmed all of the rabid conspiracy theories of the QAnon types. We were, they have a right to expect that.
Time for Bondi, Kash, and Bongino to resign?
Now Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are stuck. There's no there that we can release. One of the things they say in the letter is most of what is left is stuff that implicates the victims, and that's true, and you don't want them to release that, but it implicates the victims with men, right? It implicates the victims with powerful men, and it's absolutely true that they should withhold the files for the victims' sakes, but it's also possible that if you release those files and blacked out the women, you would have a bunch of powerful men in bed with these underage women. Who knows?
I do think they rope-a-dope just a little bit. Like, they didn't know if there was a list. They said there was a list. Others no list. Everything's fine. Carry on. Next shiny object.
A month ago, and this is little noticed, but it's actually sort of important. Robert Garcia and Stephen Lynch, both of the Oversight Committee, James Comer's committee, they write Pam Bondi and they say, when are we going to get the files? Now, I don't have any reason to expect that they thought there were files. They're doing the same thing I'm doing, which is saying, Pam Bondi, you've made this promise, give them, right? Dan Bongino, you made this promise, give them. Because they've written that letter, now Pam Bondi has an obligation to Congress, basically, to provide a better answer than she did with this letter to come out. And it's just not going to go away. It won't go away because it is non-falsifiable.
That's transparency.
Follow up on that,
Sure.
Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that.
Meaning everything that Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have done have convinced the rabid conspiracy theorists not that there's no there, but that Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have been gotten to by the deep state. And it's this delicious moment because this is the kind of thing that brings down people who rely on conspiracy theories, right? I do think that Cash and Bondi and Dan Bongino believed in these conspiracy theories. I think they in good faith said, oh, well, they made these promises believing that there was a there in the same way that they made other promises about the Russian investigation or about the January 6th investigation. They're having problems inventing something to substantiate those theories as well, although they're having a little bit better success at that because Chuck Grassley's good at doing this and he's experienced at doing this. But if you were to fully release the Epstein stuff, yes, it would implicate Elon Musk. Yes, there would be evidence that Clinton was on his plane once, I think, but refused some other invitations. But the most implicated person would be Donald Trump.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would.
This is not going to go away, and it could very well snowball.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
It could snowball in that, why is Donald Trump leaving these deep staters, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino in their place?
He didn't kill himself. Yeah. He was murdered in his cell. Yeah. How can that happen? Well, it can't happen without state actors involved.
Because they won't give us the Epstein files, and then it's going to lead people to distrust DOJ on other things.
You think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
This doesn't help society. It doesn't help combat climate change. It doesn't help Democrats win the House. But what it does do is it creates distrust of Trump's top aides. It creates distrust of the same people who are spewing conspiracy theories about, say, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And it also creates schisms within the MAGA community. And, well, that is not a noble pursuit. That is a useful pursuit insofar as it really starts to chip away at the cult.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?